Good evening and welcome to round 12 of our PPG IndyCar World Series Championship. Coming to you tonight from the Pocono International Raceway. The race has gotten underway. I've been running a little bit behind schedule this day and evening. But very quickly, this is Pocono International Raceway, also known lovingly, for most at least, as the Tricky Triangle. 2.5 mile tri-oval, 200 laps for 500 miles will be done. Turn 1 banked at 14 degrees, tunnel turn 2 at 8 degrees, in the final turn 3 and 4 at 6 degrees with a bump towards the exit of the final turn. Let us get into the action, as we have 16 laps by looks of things completed. And it looks like we are under a yellow flag based on the speed of the cars going around. Looks like we are going back to green. And we are. Niklas Kirsten currently in the lead for the True Sports team. He has Jonatan close behind for Quaker Racing, 1 and 2. Then we have Ray Riddle with Saber sweeping around the side. So David Saber for Vince Granatelli Racing going up into third place with actually Ray Riddle still in with a chance, but he backs off into the tunnel turn. Jason White is 5th for Newman Haas Racing. Filippo Marazzi running up in 6th place at the moment for Hamilton Racing, actually up to 5th as he dispenses of Jason White, who drops to 6th between the tunnel turn and turn 3. And looks like Jason is staying wide because here comes Richard Wilkes as well, up in the 6th place. Grant Riddle working his way up from behind as well, presumably having made a stop in 8th. Juha Bors currently running 9th with August Watering in a one-off. For Hamilton Racing running currently in 10th place. Brian Yannick is 11th for Curb Racing with Adam Hackman for Penske running 12th. Eric Candido is 13th for the Machinists Union Racing team with Raul Yareb in a one-off drive in the number 23 Dick Simon Racing in 14th. Bruno Chacon lines up 15th with Anders Nilsson, unfortunately a retiree, along with Mateus da Silva, Ruben Fernandez, Simon Wattman is the last of our retirees. That being said, we will unfortunately not have a timer for the race, but we will at least have the lap counter by the looks of things working correctly. I wonder. It looks a bit strange, but it seems like Niklas is on lap 17th while Jon Tim is on lap 16. I will have a very quick gander at the actual timing board and let you know what is actually going on at this very moment in time. Okay, so looks like the lap counter will not be working, so I will have the live board on beside me here to give us a better idea of what is going on in the race. So we are currently on lap 22 with everyone bar Bruno Chacon currently running on the lead lap. Let's see, there is Bruno Chacon. So Chacon is a lap down. We have 15 runners still in this race. Looks like Eric Candido and Raul Jereb is having a bit of a battle for 13th and 14th place. Oh, and here comes Raul Jereb. Great overspeed down the straight. Slings past Candido, but Candido undercuts. Looks like Eric will retake that position. Yes, he does, so they are swapping positions and having a bit of fun. So a few things to note, as it looks like it's fairly common stated, as Grant Vidal slings past Jason White though up to 7th. Jason White dropping to 8th. That was between turn 1 and the tunnel turn. And now heading towards turn 3 and 4. And Juha Bors closing in as well. I was going to make a quick note that the things that are good to know for this race is that all the drivers have an unlimited set of tires as usual for the kart PPG Kart IndyCar World Series. But they will be having 7 full tanks of fuel to use, meaning 285.6 US gallons, so just a smidgen over 1081 liters. And they will have to start with a full tank. And additionally, just very quickly, 20 points for first, 16 for second, 14 for third, 12 for fourth, 10 for fifth and 8 for sixth, as I notice Jason White dropping behind Juha Bors, who slingshot past the American on the exit of turn 4 in the background. Then it drops by 1 point from 7th down to 12th, 6 points for 7th, 1 point for 12th. Additionally, 1 point is scored for pole position and 1 point is scored for the most laps led. And both finishers and non-finishers can score points towards the total. As for the total before this round, Grant Vidal leads the championship on 150 points. John Tim is second on 123 points. Anders Nilsson, currently retired from this race, is third on 121 points. Niklas Kirsten, who currently leads this race, is fourth on 96. And Brian Yannick, who I believe just climbed to 9th place a few seconds ago, is fifth on 85 points. As Watering has also gotten past Jason White, Watering into the top 10. And Brian Yannick chases after Juha Bors. As Niklas Kirsten sets the fastest lap at a 45.890. That is quite impressive. Quite a bit quicker than John Tim's fastest race lap so far. So, also of note is that this is the final 500 miler in the championship. And the penultimate oval race on the calendar. The Bosch Sparkplug Grand Prix at Nazareth, Pennsylvania, will play host to the final oval race of the series, taking place on November 2nd, later this year. As I noticed someone peeling off into the pits in the background. Oh, Saber into the pits, deciding not to pit on the yellow, so he is in now. And Marazzi in as well. Let's see, that would be for those two. at the end of lap 28, if I calculate that correctly. Well, look at that. With a pit under green flag conditions, they drop off the lead lap. As Marazzi just now and Saber just now coming back out of the pits. Yannick has gotten past Juha Bors in the meantime as we were checking that out. That brings Grant Vidal up to 5th. With Wilkes going past, I believe that's Marazzi, putting him a further lap behind himself. And now Wilkes is working on Ray Vidal up ahead. Looks like Jon Tim and Ray Vidal into the pits. So Wilkes takes over the lead. And dealing with a bit of understeer by looks of things through the first turn. In his Gallus racing machine, and Grant Vidal has stayed out as well. I believe Richard Wilkes has called for a pit stop. He has not, or at least the pits claim that he ought to head into the pit lane. But he may have felt differently. It's worth noting that the reason this track is called a tricky triangle, in mostly a lovable way, but also to some maybe in less than a lovable way, is the fact that this circuit is extremely tricky to set up the car for and to drive. With, as we saw on the track map, as I showed it very quickly, all 3 turns are different in terms of both shape and banking. And accordingly, most drivers, if not all, will have to try and arrive at a compromise setup, so that the car will perform well around the whole track rather than performing good or really good in any single turn. As I feel we can see with Wilkes dealing with a bit of understeer by looks of things in the first turn here, but then it looks like his car works fairly decently in the tunnel turn, turn 2, and up at turn 3 and 4. But a car that's looking to work just as well, if not better, at the moment is Grant Vidal's Renault Racing machine, sitting just behind at this very moment. Wilkes actually backing off into turn 1. I wonder if Richard might be looking to already save some additional fuel. Brian Yannick currently in third, August Watering fourth. We have Bors in fifth, Adam Hackman in sixth, Raoul Jereb in seventh. Kirsten has then dropped to eighth after his pit stop. Eric Candido in ninth, Jon Tim currently in 10th, Ray Riddall in 11th, Jason White in 12th, Filippo Marazzi in 14th, and Brun Chacon still running 15th and currently last car running. The thing to also say about the turns as they head to turn 1 is that it's a sweeping curve banked at 14 degrees. You'll mostly see the drivers, as we saw with Grant, dive towards the apron of the turn and then deal with the run coming out. It's very similar to Trenton's turn 1. Turn 2, known as the tunnel turn, as it runs over two access tunnels to the infield. It's a very quick curve banked at 8 degrees. It's very similar to one of the turns, like 102 at Indianapolis. And turn 3 that they just exited a little while ago. It's a long, wide curve that is banked at just 6 degrees. Very similar in feel to a turn at Milwaukee, or at the Milwaukee Mile. And like we mentioned, they might decide to just cope with one of the turns and have the car well set up for, say, turn 1 and 3, 4, but then try to deal with the tunnel turn as best they can. They may also take a different approach and have a good car through 1 and 2 at the tunnel turn, but then work the car a bit more coming through turns 3 and 4. But it's going to be difficult for them, as Grant now is right up behind Richard Wilkes once again. But I'm fairly sure Grant is just sitting there being happy, saving fuel and keeping a watching brief on the lead. After all, he has a nice cushion in the championship, and all he needs to do really is finish ahead of Jon Tim, first and foremost, as El Candido looks to have missed his pit stall coming in. As Eric leaves, was looking to leave the pit lane, looks like he's struggling a little bit to get the gear. Ayya! That's a bit scary. A bit of a loose coming off the pit road and swung onto the race track. Luckily, no one was coming along in a passing way and all is well. But that is how easy it is to just have the slightest bit of a loose as you're trying to accelerate these cars from very low speeds coming out of pit lane. And one of the things we also saw as well earlier as we just joined the race on the start. Oh, someone seems to have had an off or something. There's parts on the track. Oh, that looks like, could that be Raoul Jereb maybe? Yes, it is. Unfortunately, Raoul has hit the wall coming off of turn 4. And he has a long way to go with a crabbing car and no front or rear wing. I hope everyone will give him a decent bit of berth. Raoul is very capable at keeping the car in a place, but when the car is as damaged as that one looks to be, even someone who's good at keeping the car in control may need just a bit of extra room. Looks like Raoul might be parking the car though. Looks like he does indeed, so Raoul, unfortunately, another retirement from this race. Highly unfortunate, but one of those things, unfortunately. Very easy to do. I'd imagine he came off turn 4 and the angle wasn't quite right, and the car snapped on him on the bumps on the exit, and that's all she wrote. We'll see if we might be able to catch it as we rewind to get a replay of this. Looks like that's exactly what happened. Into turn 3. And through into 4, and the car is just slowly trying to rotate a little bit too much. And then as... Ooh, clearly some serious suspension damage to the car as well after the hit with the wall. But that was a long slide for Raoul, unfortunately, and yeah, just a very unfortunate retirement, but looked like he was having a good race up until that point. As I was going to say before Raoul had that incident, we saw earlier that Grant was I think it was Grant, or if it was Wilkes, side by side with another car heading towards Tunnel Turn. It was Ray and Ray Riddle and Richard Wilkes. Side by side going towards Tunnel Turn, but I think it was Ray who backed out of going through that side by side. And at the Tunnel Turn, it is pretty much a one groove racetrack, and two cars very seldom, if at all, can traverse it side by side. The drivers have been highly advised to avoid being side by side through there, because massive accidents has happened in that section. Among others, Robert Wickens had his horrendous crash at the Tunnel Turn. Would have been maybe 5 or 6 years ago now. I think there were 2 or 3 wide. I think there were 2 wide at least. Him and one other driver. I'm not good with names, so I can't remember the other driver's name who was involved. But they made contact at the Tunnel Turn, and Wickens was sent sideways and slightly up into the air, and contacted with the retaining fence on the outside, which unfortunately caused quite a bit of damage to Wickens' body. I believe he's medically what is his name? Paralyzed in the lower half, but I know I've seen him race in the United Sports Car series of endurance racing, but I believe he uses hand controls for that. But it's good to know that he's back racing, doing what he loves. Owen Wilkes slow off the pit lane. Grant takes the opportunity and slings past as they have headed into the pit lane and out. And here comes John Tim as well, sweeping by. And I think Grant effectively noticed, oh, that's a yellow and blue car behind. I'm not going to sit behind Wilkes and just let things happen, because I need to get a move on. Because that's the car that Grant most definitely wants to finish ahead of in this race if he can have a say in the matter. Another relatively big crash at turn 2 here. This track was, I think it was the year after Wickens had his crash. There were another multi-car pile-up at turn 2. I think it was I had the name earlier and now I've dropped it. Rosenquist, who had a skim along the wall on the outside. Luckily didn't catch the catch fencing, but a very close call. And Rosenquist, to be fair, has had a couple of close calls in the modern IndyCar series, because if I remember correctly, he also had a stuck throttle at Belle Isle in Detroit, leading to a more or less head-on at very high speed contact with a tire barrier, which saw him effectively mount part of the tire barrier, which looked very unsettling when it happened. So after some pit stops, Kirsten back in the lead, Jonatan in second, having repassed Grant Riddall despite Grant slewing ahead of Wilkes. Cold tires versus warm tires, Jonatan got past. So Riddall in third, Richard Wilkes in fourth, Brian Yannick in fifth, Ray Riddall is currently in sixth. August Watering is in seventh, with Adam Hackman in eighth. Juha Boos currently sitting in ninth, with David Saber rounding out the top 10. Jason White is 11th, with Marazzi in 12th. Eric Candido 13th, and Brun Chacon running in 14th. And looks like Kirsten has quite a lead at the moment, at 20.7 seconds heading into turn 1. So it'll be a bit of a stretch, but let's see what happens in terms of the overall strategy, because while Niklas definitely has the upper hand at the moment, the question is he backtracking it towards the end of the race, or is he doing the hare way, while say Jonatan, Grant Riddall and Wilkes are doing more of the like quote unquote normal race strategy of going as far as you can on each tank and just driving it and sorting it out later. As there was some tire smoke, I think. Looks like Brun Chacon has had a bit of a spin or a moment. Looks like the car is handling okay though, as Wilkes is honing in on Grant now. And from what I can see, August Watering is currently the last car on the lead lap, though a few are just off the lead lap. Hackman being one, I saw him just in behind, and Juha Boos as well, and Saber. And looks like Saber is working a bit of a questionable car on the straight there. Don't know if that's set up or... Oh, and Juha Boos really wide through turn 1. David Saber with a much better run through the turn up into 9th, ahead of Juha Boos. And it currently looks like Kirsten is just slightly pulling away from Jonatan up until now, when he's been sitting behind a car that is relatively on the same pace as Niklas is. But looks like... Ooh! I was going to say looks like... August watering is staying high to let him by, but that looked a bit hectic. But yeah, it looks like the gap has stabilized at the moment at about 21.5 seconds between Kirsten and Tim. And also to note, this track has been on and off the calendar quite a few times over the years. The USAC National Championship was hosted by this Pocono Raceway from 1971 through 1981. And then the kart series from 1982 through to 1989. But during the kart tenure, the track became rather infamous for its very rough surface and general lack of upkeep. Frequent debris on the track, mostly from the track surface itself, would cause dangerous tire punctures. And these issues and others, such as a very substandard medical facility on site, caused the race to be removed from the kart calendar after the 1989 event. But then the current day IndyCar series returned to what was then a much improved Pocono in 2013, but left again after 2019 with two major tragedies and one near tragedy. The first of which was the death of Justin Wilson during the 2015 race, when he was struck by, I think that was another crash at turn 2. No, exit of turn 1. Quite a few cars off, and Justin was hit in the head by part of a nose cone, which unfortunately ended his life. And then that savage crash for Robert Wickens, which was 2018, left him paralyzed indeed from the waist down. And then, as I mentioned, in 2019, as well, the near tragedy where, among others, Takuma Sato and Felix Rosenquist crashed at turn 2 as well, and was almost a carbon copy of what happened to Wickens. And whether or not Pocono is safe for IndyCar is quite understandably, as Kirsten heads into the pits on his off-kilter strategy. Oh, John Tim has retired! Whatever happened here? Oh dear, looks like someone else crashed ahead, did they? Oh yeah, there's a tire there. Swerved to avoid a tire and struck the wall himself instead. Ah, what tragedy for John. Whoever was that tire from? Was that watering? Looks like it may have been. As he ran wide, hit the wall, and then span down into the pit lane. Heavy hit on the wall. Oh yeah, it's his tire. His tire ends up on the other side of the pit wall. And then moments later, Jonatan coming along the straight swerves to avoid that tire, hits the outside barrier and spins damaged car onto the inside of by the pit exit. Yikes, what rotten luck for both Watering and Jonatan. And that means as long as Grant finishes this, it'll be a very difficult task for Jon to do anything about the championship, as Jason White has just gotten past Juha Boos. Hackman in 5th, Yannick in 4th, Kirsten out of the pits in 3rd. So his off-kilter strategy looks to be working at the moment, but here comes Yannick up the inside. Less fuel and possibly slightly warmer tires means Yannick for now is faster than Kirsten. Wilkes in 2nd and Grant in the lead, so Grant has stayed ahead of Wilkes after the pit stops. And they are sitting just behind Boos and Jason White. And I think neither Boos nor White wants to end up off the lead lap now that they are back on it. Oh, and look at that, Juha Boos around outside of Jason White, and then the leaders coming up on the inside of both of them. Yikes. Wilkes having to take a bit of an unwanted line there, I think. And Kirsten right in behind Yannick still. So all the remaining runners will be scoring points, with Bruno Chacon now in 12th as Jason White heads for the pit lane. At what for him would be the end of lap 63, I think. Something as well for the drivers is that this race shouldn't be, compared to other 500 milers, shouldn't be decided as much by fuel economy. That being said, Wilkes might be doing a fuel economy run still, because we've seen in 73 and 74 Jakob Fredriksson won the race and got close to winning the race running fuel strategy in those yearly editions of this particular race. So maybe Wilkes is taking a leaf out of, or page out of Jakobsson's book, Fredriksson's book, sorry, and trying to make use of such a strategy here. Also in addition to IndyCars, Pocono has hosted Indy Lights Formula 5000, the Trans Am Series, the IMSA GT Championship, amazingly, but I do believe there is a road course available at this venue, I could be wrong, as well as NASCAR's Xfinity Cup and Truck Series. This is of course a place where I've seen it's often part of like big motorsport crash videos. It's the vision of a red and a yellow NASCAR. I'd imagine it would be effectively a Cup Series car or set of cars. going off the road on the back straight just after the tunnel turn, and they go into the wall, and one of them flips rather substantially after having struck the Armco barriers. I believe Ship Ganassi may have been one of the drivers involved in that, but I'm not entirely sure. So those we have that are one-off drives as well in this race, currently doing quite well, is Adam Hackman, currently running in a 5th. Another one-off driver we did have was Raul Yareb in the number 23. He was doing good up until that point. And Eric Candido as well is one of driving the Machinist Union Racing entry. And I believe August Watering was one of drive for Hemmelgarn. Technically Anders Nilsson is a one of drive in a Bettenhausen car. And Matheus da Silva was a one of driver in the Machinist Union Racing entry as well. So after his pit stop a few laps ago, Jason White is currently in 9th. And he is currently about 20 seconds ahead of Marazzi behind him. And he himself has just under 8 seconds up to David Saber, who is currently running in 8th. And after that there's quite a bit of a gap of just over 33 seconds between David Saber and Ray Riddall. Those running closest together on track at the moment is Yannick and Kirsten. Though with this lapping it might actually change a little bit and it might be the leading duo still. As Wilkes heads into the pits, as does Grant, at the end of lap 76. And there comes Bruno Chacon as well in the background. See, last time out Wilkes was just ahead onto the pit road. But it looks like Grant's pit crew should be done just a little bit quicker here. They are indeed. And both of them looks like they get away okay out of the pit lane. Here comes Hackman as well. Looks like Chacon is in for a slightly longer stop. As here comes another car that looks to be Juha Bors. Yep. In the AJ Foyt entry. So for whatever reason the chat on the stream wasn't quite working for me as the streamer. Welcome along, BL. Happy to have you along. Apologies if the camera went wonky as I was looking at that issue. Yannick into the pits from what was first. Kirsten now in first again with his off-kilter strategy. So let's see what happens for Yannick. Will he maybe be brave and take right side tires only? Nope. Looks like they are changing both side tires. The Grant just went by. And Wilkes goes by as well. So Yannick back to 4th place. Definitely looks like Saber is running with a wounded car. Oh dear me, yeah. Look at that. Look at the way he's holding that steering. That is, I'm fairly sure, not quite a happy car. You know, comparing to Jason White, who's in behind, Saber is doing a great job just keeping this car still on the track, based on what the car looks like it's doing to him. So after another set of pit stops, Kirsten leading at the start of lap, or having completed lap 80. Nearly 40 seconds in front of Grant Riddall, who runs second. Richard Wilkes, about 4 seconds behind Riddall, runs in third, with Brian Yannick in fourth, about 8 seconds adrift from Richard Wilkes. Then there's a bit of a gap to Ray Riddall, currently running fifth for Dick Simon Racing. He is 26.5 seconds behind Yannick. A further 7 seconds adrift, currently in sixth, is Adam Hackman for Penske Racing. Another 16 or so seconds behind is Juha Boos, currently in seventh, with Saber a further 11 and a bit seconds adrift from Juha Boos, and then 6 to 6.5 seconds roughly behind Saber is Jason White in ninth. 31 seconds behind Jason White we have Marazzi, currently running out top 10. With Eric Candido in 11th, about 37 seconds behind Marazzi. And Bruno Chacon still running in 12th, a few laps behind Candido at this point in time. I'd imagine, based on what I could see from the retirement list as we went on the air, there was a crash early doors, and Bruno Chacon probably picked up damage that he had to repair, hence why he is a few laps behind everyone else. But currently, with the big lead that Kirsten has, now 42 seconds ahead of Riddall, only 4 cars are still on the lead lap. Those being Kirsten, Riddall, Wilkes, and just about Yannick, who we can see just ahead there in number 33 Skull Bandit racing car. You can see now Kirsten lining Yannick up, and it looks like he will put the Detroitian a lap down. Apologies, I'm struggling with a bit of a dry throat at the moment. So now 3 cars on the lead lap: Kirsten, Riddall, and Wilkes. Such is the pace of this off-kilter strategy that Kirsten is trying here tonight. It will be interesting to see which of the strategies comes out on top. Does look like Wilkes is continually closing in on Grant Riddall ahead. Let's actually jump on board with Wilkes here, as we can have a look at both him chasing Grant and what the track looks like from a driver's eye perspective. As they are just heading into turn 3 and through 4, bit of a bump on the exit here. Down the start-finish straight, past the start-finish line, and into turn 1. And out of it, down to tunnel turn. Then into 3 and 4. Not too far behind Grant with all Richard Wilkes, and there we have Niklas Kirsten. So Kirsten just a few car lengths behind third and second on the road now. So nearing to put the whole field a lap behind himself, which will create a lot of safety for Kirsten for the rest of this race, as Kirsten now heads into the pit lane. But that's the kind of dominance that Kirsten is having in this race. His fastest lap is a good nearly 6/10 quicker than anyone else so far in this race. As in behind as well into the pits is Filippo Marazzi. So I reckon with such a big gap, Kirsten may indeed be able to get out before Grant and Wilkes comes round again. Look at this Kirsten out, pitting at the end of lap 89, and there's near on daylight behind. 11.5 seconds the gap between himself and Grant with all. Look at that cackle of cars. Hackman, that was Bruno Chacon, and I believe Eric Candido all together as the second place car, and now Wilkes trying to make his way past them all as well. So Hackman back up to 5th. Ray Vidal must have pitted. I believe Johan Boos is in. Oh, Johan Boos is actually retired. Whatever happened here? Oh, looks like there was a bit of quite a big crash. Oh, tunnel turn by the looks of things. Yeah, just lost the car. That is the final turn. Very similar of an off to what one of the others who has retired had. Oh, Jason White has retired as well. Whatever happened to Jason? See if we can even catch it, I'm not sure. Looks like it may have been a disconnection based on what we're seeing here. It was a very similar after what Raoul Jereb had. The one that we saw Johan Boos just have. So that means Jason White will score 1 point in this race, and looks like Johan Boos most likely will score 2. And that unfortunately leaves us with 10 runners, just before the halfway point in this race. As Kirsten sweeps past Saber, who's currently running in 7th. With the demise of some of the other drivers, Eric Candido, though, heading into the pit lane, is currently running in 8th place. Past goes Marazzi, up into 8th place. So Eric Candido drops to 9th, and soon to be Bruno Chacon in 10th. Leaves still with 1 more lap to go until he is past Johan Boos. actually just got past, so up to 10th in lead for Chacon. Saber and Ray Riddle ain't too far away from each other. That might be a battle to come. So technical issues indeed for Jason, unfortunately. For whatever reason, the stream chat is broken for the stream, but I can see it if I have the live stream on a different computer here. So I will do this, and I can have a chat on a window on the other computer. So yeah. Looks like Ray is just slightly gapping Saber lap after lap. Could be that is caused both by Ray obviously driving better, but also, as we saw earlier, Saber is nursing some kind of suspension damage or similar. But doing a very good job at it, sitting in 7th at the moment. That was actually, I believe, a pass for Janik. No, not a pass, putting Hackman a lap behind Janik. That was. So about 2 seconds. 1.5 to 2 seconds behind Wilkson with all, and Kirsten continually pulling away from Grant, now 13 odd seconds in front. So very much showing as being the class of the field at this event. Seeing as there's a bit of a lull in the action, let's head to a trivia question, courtesy of Jason White. So the question for you to ponder for the remaining roughly 95 laps are taking USAC, kart and the current day in the car series into account. Which driver has won the Pocono 500 miler the most times? Is it A. Al Unser? Is it B. AJ Foyt? Or is it C. Rick Mears? It's a very good question, and I must say I got it wrong when I was looking at the question earlier, and I noticed in the background on the timing page that another driver looks to have retired. Looks like indeed David Saber has retired his Vince Granatelli Racing entry. Let's see if we can possibly catch what happened to him. Looks like it must have happened just after we checked in on him a few laps ago. Like then he was sitting just behind, a little bit behind Ray Riddle. Let's see. Let's jump aboard with David Saber looking from the T-cab. So Grant Riddle passes Saber. Oh dearie me, that was a bit of a slow up. Yikes. That is unfortunate. Grant Riddle passes, then with a slightly wonky line I reckon. He slowed down to make sure he got the turn correct. Saber steamed in there at his usual pace and was just slightly oversped compared to Grant ahead. And unfortunately a bit of contact. Grant just barely held the car on the track. Meanwhile, unfortunately, David Saber span his already damaged car. And with that now, I noticed as well as we were checking the replays, Wilkes and Grant Riddle has headed into the pits and come back out. Now with Wilkes ahead of Grant once again after the pit stops. Could be that Grant, I noticed he's checked up quite a bit as we were watching the crash for Saber, so maybe Wilkes got by then and stayed ahead for the pit stops. As well as Brian and Yannick into the pits right now. There goes Kirsten. Here comes Richard Wilkes. And Grant Riddle just making their way by. So with this, Niklas Kirsten is alone on the lead lap here tonight. Absolutely cracking pace. Unfortunately, the demise for Saber means that Saber scores 3 points for his 10th place finish, and it brings Brun Chacon up into 9th, as well as Eric Candido up to 8th and Filippo Mazzi up to 7th place. And my broadcast assistant just arrived, as you could see from the camera going a bit wonky. But Wilkes remaining ahead, now 5 seconds ahead of Grant Riddle, so it looks like Wilkes has picked up the pace, or maybe Grant Riddle has picked up just a tiny bit of damage in the rear end from that contact between himself and Saber. The tiniest bit of counter steer, but I don't think it's enough to explain the relatively high pace difference. That we are seeing at the moment. Not entirely sure what's up with that. Could be though that the rear end is just not quite where he would like it, and that's why he's decided to just back off. And after all, Jon Tim has retired and Wilkes is many points down in the championship, as is Kirsten, so if Grant is able to just keep the car on the road and finish third, that is a very good point still for the championship and increasing his championship lead overall to the car nearest behind him in the points. It has to be said, Brian Yannick is keeping touch. He is only 5 or so seconds behind Grant. So it could be no podium position for Grant here tonight, depending on how much pace he is dropping for what I assume to be some form of damage being carried. Riddle, as is often the case, putting in a good consistent drive. Currently sitting in 5th place. 2 laps adrift, but about 6.5 seconds ahead of Adam Hackman, driving the Penske car in a one-off entry for this race. So Hackman, the best placed driver, who's driving just this race at the moment. Hackman likewise one-off drive in the Penske entry. The March 86C chassis, doing a very good job in that car. Though maybe they would have hoped that the Ilmore power plant in the car would be able to do more work for the entry. But still doing a nice consistent drive, as Ray Riddle has entered the pits and coming out. So Ray drops to what looks to be going to be 6th place, with Hackman then climbing up to 5th for the time being. Also a bit of an off-kilter strategy between the two of them. And Candido currently running in 7th, but a couple of laps adrift of Ray Riddle, so not a battle for position. Looks like Marazzi may have just been coming out of the pits there as well. Looks like Wilkes has just pitted a lap or two ago, as he is now behind Yannick and Grant Riddle. That is a bit of a strange one. I would have expected, as before, that they would be pitting on the same lap each and every time. Because the gap is quite large. It's 27 seconds, the gap between Wilkes and Yannick, and a further 2 seconds up to Grant Riddle. So Wilkes must have pitted, but doesn't look like Grant has, unless Wilkes were repairing some damage that he had picked up for whatever reason. very strange, but we will have to wait and see, I suppose, as to what the reason is for the relatively big amount of time between Grant and Wilkes at this time in the race. Let's go ahead and jump on board the passing field at this moment in time. Doesn't care for that. Watch him how he does drive this track. Surprised to hear that he is actually changing gears into the turns and coming out. Everyone I've heard so far is driving in one gear. Supposedly Kirsten feels that is more beneficial, despite possibly causing more issues, as Yannick is now in second. Grant Riddle looks to have pitted and is third. Not pitted must have been a mistake somewhere, because the gap is around a second. So maybe Grant got held up in traffic somewhere and Ryan was able to sneak past. Wilkes still in fourth, 31 odd seconds adrift from Grant. Hackman still in fifth. Ray Riddle currently running sixth. Marazzi currently in seventh, as that happened when Candido pitted earlier. About 8 seconds the difference between Marazzi and Eric in the battle for seventh. And currently last car running in ninth, Bruno Chacon. He too is doing a good job keeping the car on the island, despite presumably having repaired the car early. He is soldiering on and getting a good finish out of this race. Looks like the battle is on for 5th. Hackman just ahead of Ray Riddle. Looks like it may have been the other way around, that Hackman just passed Ray, but the gap was close at least for a few moments. Oh, it's actually because Hackman has put Ray a lap down, I just noticed on the timing screen. Quite over the pace now from the March 86C in the hands of Hackman compared to Ray Riddle's Lola. We have 135 laps in the books. Now 136. And that looks like a car off the side of the road. It is. It's Filippo Marazzi. Burning engine, and it looks like the rear wing is off and maybe the right rear tire. It is. So what happened to Marazzi to cause this big blow up? Let's see, going into turn 1, the car looks to be crabbing just a tiny bit. That might just be setup wise, but he is high and wide, trying to pinch the car further down and hits the outside wall very hard indeed, spins down, and two other cars just barely avoided him. Hackman was one, and I believe Candido might have been the other. The engine was still running at that time. Marazzi trying to, not sure, maybe just keep the car running maybe, or get it to where he could park it, but then the engine blew. Too much damage caused to the internals from that crash. And finally pulling off slightly onto the grass and unfortunately out of this race for Marazzi, as the safety car has come out from that crash. As it looks like we're just trying to get everything situated in line. On a penalty for Ray Riddle. 10-second stop-go penalty. For why? Oh, Ray Riddle entered the pits. I wonder if he may have ended up ahead of the safety car by too much, maybe. And the USAC officials decided to penalize that. But Kirsten leading, Yannick currently in the pits. Grant Riddle looks to be a lap behind Kirsten here, currently in third. Wilkes fourth, Hackman fifth. Ray Riddle having exited the pits in sixth. Candido 7th, Marazzi currently 8th, but Brun Chacon in a few laps time should be 8th, which means Marazzi will be 9th and scoring 4 points for this race. So let's see, it looks like Brian Yannick will be at the back of the line, while Kirsten is in the front as the safety car, pace car heads in. Green flag is back out and Kirsten resumes the lead. Yannick then now across the start-finish line, entering the pits, but not quite catching up to the rest of the pack before the restart. Grant then running third, Richard Wilkes running fourth. The gap between the two just under a second. While the gap between Kirsten and Yannick for first and second currently about 14 seconds or so. As Hackman looks to be making room for Wilkes as Wilkes chases after Grant. Look at that, Wilkes right up with Grant now, after the start-finish straight. look at that, Wilkes sweeping past. So Grant dropping to 4th place, Wilkes up to 3rd. That almost looked like a boost pass, effectively. Unfortunately, with that stop-go penalty, looks to be a full-on lap down now, indeed, behind Hackman. There goes Kirsten. Wow, and a slight improvement on the fastest race lap so far, done by Kirsten. Now a 45.874. A little bit of improvement. I think it was 8.90 was the previous race pace record. So very much showing that the True Sports team has put in a fantastic amount of work to get the car as good for Kirsten as it can be. Blunchacon now in 8th place. As our leader for the race has just crossed the line for 3/4 distance. 50 laps to go. There goes Yannick up inside of Hackman. Kirsten has pitted, so Yannick now currently in the lead. By about 17 seconds at the moment. For the time being, that also means that Richard Wilkson Grant Woodall is back on the lead lap. as Candido heads into the pit lane. Previous times Yannick has been in the pit lane at the same time, but not this time around. But if Candido just pitted, I would imagine Yannick's pit visit won't be too far away. Though, thinking back, he did pit during the last yellow, so it'll be a while still. After a quick little calculation, the drivers will need to make 29 laps worth of fuel on each full tank. So the leader now has completed 164 laps, says Brian Yannick. He needs to make it up until lap 100. Let's say 173 really to be like, yep, I can definitely like a little bit less, so maybe 172, 173. Him or Kirsten might say, okay, we can make it from here and head into pit lane. So we'll know in about 7 to 9 laps time what the drivers will be doing. Oh, someone has had a spin and off. And that looks like it may have been... Oh, it's Adam Hackman in the Penske. Oh, dearie me, so that's unfortunately a retirement for the Penske driver. So Team Penske is now going to be out. Let's see. Oh, it's tunnel turn. Let's see on the board. Let's see what happened. Hackman going into the turn. Turns down. Oh, turned down just a bit sharply. Hit the grass on the inside. And that just changed the trajectory for him. And out into the outside barrier he went. Heavy damage to the car. And unfortunately, another retirement from this race. Wilkes into pit lane. A little bit early, maybe. A little bit over 30, I would say for him then 32, 33 laps to complete. He can surely do it, but that seems like a bit of a stretch. Though that might also be simple. I have not talked to any of the drivers, I don't know exactly what kind of fuel, like amount of laps they are getting per tank, but they need to make it at least 27, make it 28 laps a tank to be classified. But then Wilkes comes out about 23-24 seconds behind Grant, who himself is now into the pit lane. Oh dear me, Yannick in the pit lane as well. Grant quite lucky, because Yannick's stall is the one right in front of Grant's stall by the looks of things. Yannick comes out of the pit lane, so he has decided to bite the bullet at the end of lap 168. Grant now coming out the pit lane. He will be behind Wilkes. And likewise, Yannick will be behind Kirsten for now, but Kirsten, I believe, also needs to pit at least one more time. So I wonder what Kirsten will do. He is now very much in a bit of a tough spot, I'd say. Unless he thinks that he can make it from the point when he pitted earlier in this race. Which I do have a difficult time believing that he will. As Ray Riddall in the background heads into pit lane. That's roughly the gap. 28 seconds now between Kirsten and Yannick. If Kirsten has to pit again, it's going to be very mightily close indeed. Yannick has Grant with all for close company on track. Oh, it's Wilkes has blown, I think. Wilkes has blown. So the Brabham Honda power plant has decided to say, I give up. So unfortunately Wilkes is a retirement from this race. At the very best, he will get a 7th place finish, which clearly is not what he would have wanted, but it is sometimes the way the cookie crumbles, so to speak. That means Eric Candido might get a first top 5 finish in ISO. As long as he's able to get the car another few laps up the road. That's the first car in the late race burning an engine. Question is, what will the others do? Will they just slightly back off having seen that, or will they continue to try and strain their engines, hoping that they will last at the pace they've been going for most of the race? Oh, Kirsten setting a burning pace, 35 seconds now, the gap between himself and Yannick. It is going to be mighty close, but if Kirsten has just a tiny little splash and dash, fill up of fuel, maybe that gap is going to be big enough. Kirsten absolutely flying, increasing the gap further, now 42, nearly 43 seconds, as he's closing in on completing 180 laps in this race. So 20 laps to go as Kirsten crosses the start-finish line this time by. But the remaining question is, how much fuel does he need? And how long is the stop? As he comes into the pit lane, let's see what happens here. Oh no! Kirsten spins! And damages the car. And repairs will need to be done. He was braking as late as he possibly could to try and stop as late as he could and bring as much speed as he could, as long as he could. But unfortunately, that is a very costly, if tiny, mistake to make. So presumably Yannick will come flying by. Here he comes. And past Kirsten he goes. Kirsten does have a lap. In hand almost on Grant. Let's see if Grant is able to get by with this repair time. There goes Grant up into second then. So a very long and costly repair for Kirsten. And that means Yannick is in the box seat, a lap ahead of Grant with all track all to himself, with at the end of this lap 18 laps to go. In the meantime as well, Eric Candido has made his way past Richard Wilkes and is up into 5th place, which should mean a first top 5 finish for Candido here at ISO. A very successful race for him here in this 500 miler. And not too far off going past either is Brun Chacon. There he goes. Brun Chacon up into 6th place, displacing Richard Wilkes down to 7th. Due to Wilkes' retirement with that blown engine. Very long repair. I wonder if the suspension took some damage as well then, considering how long Kirsten has been sitting here in the pits. Now soon, within a lap for Ray Riddall, Kirsten may lose a podium finish as well. As here comes Ray Riddle as Ryan Yannick displaces him a further lap down. Riddle is up into a podium finish, 3rd place. Nice consistent low-key drive for Ray. Looks like it may just reward him with a podium finish here at Pocono. As Niklas just now gets going, a very lengthy repair. But he should now have no trouble making it to the end of the race. But obviously not in a position where he would have wanted coming out after his final pit stop, considering where he was when he came in to do the pit stop. Same lap as Ray, but 37 seconds behind. As Eric Candido into the pits and a smoking white smoke from the car that looks like a possible turbo failure. Seems like the car may have unfortunately died on Eric here. Let's see what happened before he headed into the pit lane. Through tunnel turn. Everything looks fine. Down into 3 and 4. Swings down into pit lane. Oh dear, looks like at the very end. What a rotten piece of luck. So Eric Candido looks to be a retirement from this race. And I'm not sure, he may or may not still get that 5th place. Because it's going to be tight, but I think Bruno might just be able to displace his countryman, and Bruno might then pick up another top 5 finish in this series. So another engine, technically that one looked more turbo related issue. Are there going to be any more as we enter the last 11 laps of this race? As we wait to see how the dominoes are going to fall, let's have a quick relook at the trivia question and the answer to the same. So the question for you to ponder for the last nearly half of this race was, taking USAC, kart and the current day IndyCar series into account, which driver has won the Pocono 500 miler the most times? Is it A, Al Unser, B, AJ Foyt, or C, Rick Mears? I can see BL going for Mears. The correct answer is B, AJ Foyt, who won the Pocono 500, also known as the Quaker State 500 in 1987, 4 times in 1973, 1975, 1979 and 1981. very much very successful here at Pocono. I'd imagine partly because he ran the Foyt engine or the Cossa for most of those years, which was a fairly decent fuel engine, especially in 73 and I'd imagine 75 compared to the Offies back in those years. So Brian Yannick leading, full lap ahead of Grant Riddall in second. And I will note I also went for Mies when I saw that question to begin with. Currently Ray Riddall is in third. 8 laps to go for the leader, and the gap between Ray Riddall and Niklas Kirsten, who is flying, is now 16.5 seconds. Kirsten has been closing in at a great rate of knots, but we'll see whether he can catch and pass Ray before the end of the race. As also Brun Chacon has been able to displace Candido, so Chacon, as long as the car holds up for him, will get a top 5 finish in this race. Or even if the car doesn't hold up, he will get a top 5 finish in this race, I should say. So let's jump on board with Niklas for a lap, see how he is driving and attacking this track. It indeed looks like he is attacking quite a bit. Gap down to just over 11 seconds between himself and Ray Riddall. As Brian, crossing the start-finish line in half a lap's time, will have 4 laps left to complete. Niklas Kirsten is absolutely flying. There he is in the background. He can now make out a speck at the end of the straight of who and what car he is chasing. Seconds to gap now. laps to go. This is going to be close. Kirsten already flying past Rayrodol, wasting no time with the overspeed that he has, as Brian Yannick enters the final lap of the race, having put in a brilliant drive, nice, steady, careful, clearing all the dangers. And Kirsten likewise was very close to doing the same, but one tiny mistake was all it took for Brian Yannick to be in the lead, and now I believe no matter what happens, he should take the win from here. Through tunnel turn and through turn 3 and 4 for the final time. Out of the final turn he comes, and across the start finish line. Fairly sure, or is it counting that way, the other way on the timing board on the... Yeah, looks like it does. So I was a bit early because I'm not used to using the timing and scoring system that we have available online. This is the final lap. So through 3 and 4 for the final time, and coming across the finish line, finishing and winning the Pocono 500 with the Quaker State 500 at Pocono International Raceway. Brian Yannick for Curb Racing. Second will be Grant Riddall for Rainer Racing. Still a little ways to go, but very soon we'll cross the finish line into turn 3 and 4. The Englishman comes and goes out of and up to the start finish line to finish second in this race and extending his championship lead. Niklas Kirsten, unfortunate mistake towards the end at the final pit stop, but still third place, a good result for the German. Ray Riddall fourth, just didn't quite have the pace to hold on to a podium position, but still a very good result for the Englishman. Bruno Chacon finishing in 5th place. Nice steady drive from him. Our retirees were Eric Candido, Richard Wilkes, Adam Hackman, Filippo Marazzi, David Saber, Juha Bos, Jason White, John Tim, August Watering, Raul Jereb, Anders Nilsson, Matheus da Silva, Ruben Fernandez, Simon Watman, and a couple of cars that I can't see on the server in the form of Alberto Equino, Little Al, and David Watman. But the winner is Brian Yannick here at the Quaker State 500. So quite the quite a race in terms of people falling by the wayside. Very tricky track, as was seen. 5 finishes tonight. More than, I believe that would be more than 75% of the field retiring. Not exclusively from crashing, there was also a couple of engine failures and such things, but still a track that was very, very difficult for our drivers. Looking slightly ahead, coming up next here at ISO, we have the 15 ADAC Goodyear 300 Kilometer Rennen 43 International ADAC Eifelrennen. It's a double meeting, rounds 1 and 2 of our 1980 DRM Championship. So some of the good old stalwarts from 1979 will be on the grid, along with the Lancia Beta. I believe it's the Monte Carlo version. It's a turbo Lancia, along with the BMW 320s, a couple of Capris, and even a lowly 2002 is in the field, but probably won't see much running in this 1980 season. But the racing should be good, as it has been so far in the DRM Championship. The previous championship, 1979, had some great racing. Close championship fight was decided only in the last race, in the last few laps. So hopefully the 1980 edition will be just as interesting. There's also a 635 Porsche, I now remember, in the field as well. And looking further ahead in the championship that we had tonight, the PPG IndyCar Kart World Series. I always get the exact naming wrong with that. It's quite confusing to me. But next race in this series, round 13, will be the Champion Sparkplug 300 case at the Laguna Seca Raceway. A racetrack that always throws up a few curveballs, especially with some of the difficult sections on that racetrack, especially the corkscrew chicane. Is always great fun to watch. And that will take place on October 5th. The DRM race will take place on September 14th, which is next Sunday. So we will be back live next Sunday with the DRM Championship. Jason White will be in the booth covering that race for you. Hopefully going to be a great one. And as that doesn't seem to be any drivers wishing to come speak to us after the race, thank you very much for tuning in. Apologies and thanks for being with us again with the late start of the broadcast. Hopefully the race itself was worthwhile still, and hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and a great upcoming week. Take care, be kind to one another, and see you all next Sunday for the DRM 1980 Championship for rounds 1 and 2. Good night, everyone. See you later.